Hi everyone, and back by popular demand, we have our very own Toshi to discuss, as he would say, the absolutely outrageous unlawful activities of the Bar Association, aka the City of London and banking system, on the ongoing trial of Copa v Craig Wright. Now, if you haven't watched our previous videos with the indomitable Toshi and Dolores, please do, as he needs no other introduction. So, welcome, Toshi, and let's get straight into it. What a farce, but really to be expected in their jurisdiction. Corrupt courts, corrupt trial. Could the outcome have really been any different at this stage?
Not really. I mean, the outcome was exactly what I predicted, but obviously not what I hoped for.
Yeah, no, I was the same, and obviously I've followed it because obviously we've done our previous videos, and I mean I like I said to you just off screen, then it's get your popcorn time out for me. I'm in it for the long haul. I think a lot of people have kind of panicked, maybe sold their BSV or whatever, but as we know, it's to do with that kind of digital potential, isn't it, of the blockchain, like as the future of digital technology, which is kind of the bigger picture, or certainly as that's how I see it. And like I say, I'm a baby to it. So do you, I mean, I just watched your latest video, and for people who haven't caught that video, please do go and watch that. But if you want to kind of give us an overview, and we can kind of deep dive the topics. But as we know, that their courts in that administrative setting, as you quite rightly said, they have no legitimacy. They, and nothing can do to, Halsbury's laws can do to legitimise them under English laws. That's what Halsbury's law is under English law. So their courts rely on presumption, assumption, tacit acquiescence or silence, and hearsay. And obviously, like Dolores said in our last interview with her, they were, the way that they come in and out, the way that they're nodding to each other, the change in jurisdictions as they go, aren't they? So if you're going into a court like that, the first jurisdiction they'll pull on you is landlord. That where, first jurisdiction is where judge is landlord, and you are the land that they have that jurisdiction over. If you rebut that, then they go into maritime, where they are the banker. And see banker, see postmaster. That's Black's law, for that jurisdiction of the judge. Third jurisdiction is ecclesiastical under the Talmud, which actually goes back to them being the tribe of Dan, like Lloyd's banking, which is why they have the black horse. It's all banking in there, and they were never gonna say that Bitcoin isn't the true kind of Bitcoin for them. They were never gonna say that Craig White was Satoshi, was they?
Yeah,
They're not gonna
if
they're not
they'd
gonna rule against themselves.
yeah, if they'd said Craig Wright was Satoshi, that would have been an absolute, like, they would effectively be shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah, they were never ever gonna do that, But this process was essential to have gone through, because those who weren't familiar with with what we know, the knowledge that we have, they would have
Yeah,
already they would always have wanted to, in their eyes, gone through the honourable way of doing things first, which is the accepted official way of doing things, which is this. So this is something that had to happen, and a process we had to go through in order to effectively wake up all the normies and go, look, this thing, like, I mean, I predicted this to quite a few people beforehand. I was like, look, they're never gonna rule in Craig's favor, because one, Craig is not going in there as a living man. He's going in there as a corporate maritime entity that is doctor, and then Craig Wright. Fact and a fact cancels each other out. So it's a legal fiction, and therefore giving effectively jurisdiction of the court, because the court can then say Dr. Craig Wright didn't write the white paper. Well, of course he didn't, because he's a legal fiction. It doesn't exist. He didn't invent Bitcoin. He didn't start the network. Well, of course he didn't. Because what the judge is referring to is a legal fiction, and a legal fiction can't do anything. But I mean, the whole court case, well, it was completely farcical, because, as everybody knows, even like the very, very basics of a claim is that if there is no claimant, there is no claim. And Copa, the claimant, didn't turn up to court. There was no one from Copa there. All they had was their representative, which was the solicitor, and the solicitor can't act for them unless they've got a signed power of attorney. And Copa can't sign a power of attorney because Copa doesn't exist. So therefore, they can't even have any representation. The whole thing was just an absolute farce. But those people who don't understand this, that these concepts are new to, would it would be very hard for them to understand the hoodwinking that's going on, because basically people want to say it's fraud, it's corruption, and everything like this. But at a very, very basic level, literally all it is deception. That's it. It's deception because they think you are stupid. You will accept this. Oh, you're going to accept like a little emblem, a little stamp on the court document because you're an idiot, because you don't recognize what a true seal is. So the judge is going to say this, the judge is going to say that. The judge is going to sign it probably like the judge, sort of in print. There won't be a wet ink signature on it. Because they think we're stupid. So therefore you're going to accept his opinion and just do what he says because you are a pauper and a ward of the state. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, those administrative courts, nothing can be done to legitimise them. And if we go in as the legal fiction, they can only hear the legal fiction. I mean, Chancery court is where you can invoke equity and the living man. But of course, as you say, maybe it's a gameplay. I mean, we know that I'm sure that Craig Wright must be aware of that, of the legal fiction. I don't know. I mean, it's like when we were chatting with Dolores, and like I say, that jurisdiction over us all as fictions, will stand until that's openly, rebuked and rebutted. The 12 presumptions of law. Unless that's rebutted, like we've said, that presumption is there, and all they need then is a function under it, because they swear, like I did at university. The first thing they get you to do when you go study law is swear your oath of allegiance to the bar. Now, I didn't know then that the bar was, they used to call the bar the Gala, which the Gala were ancient Sumerians who dragged the dead to the underworld, because that's what the bar society is there for, to collect the souls of the lost and the damned. And when we kind of hand our authority over to a solicitor or a bar member, and solicit means to prostitute, then we give away our authority. We declare ourselves, as I said, a lunatic and an imbecile before the court. So there's only this kind of slight function. Then they are private bar members of the private bar guild, and they haven't stood under the public oath of office. Because if we give them that jurisdiction, even in our ignorance, then of course they'll take it. Like you said quite rightly, Toshi, they won't sign anything. It's still a corporation. It's still a commercial court. And that's the jurisdiction, and that's banking again. So they're not going to pick up a pen and sign anything because there's a liability there. And again, they just it's all deceit and trickery, just as the language of the court is all deceit and trickery. Hence Black's law. Black means coloured, and they need coloured courts, which coloured means counterfeit. They need coloured courts for their coloured currencies, for their fake counterfeit deceptive bullshit. And it's all a trick. It's all a trickery on the mind. So what do you think the next steps are? I mean, obviously, Craig's talking about going to appeal. But do you think that he's going to kind of invoke that kind of? I mean, like I say, the only place you can invoke a living man is in Chancery and equity. But if you don't do that, then you are giving them the jurisdiction. So, like I say, I'm a baby at this, but I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines with my popcorn, like I say, in for the long haul, really. And it's so interesting to see how, just the complete and utter codswallop and tricks that they're pulling, just because, like I say, there's no way in holy hell the City of London, which is the bar, because it's the bar who run the City of London, are going to rule against themselves, just like they wouldn't with mortgages. We tried to do, take cases in and challenge mortgage fraud, ultimately securities fraud, but they're never going to, a bar member is never going to take those cases into a bar court and rule against itself, because they are in league with each other at the end, and they're making you the trustee in that situation, and benefiting from those cases themselves by pilfering your security bond ultimately at the end. But if you're going in there as the fiction, of course. So what do you think will happen next? I think
Well,
somebody put on your channel, Toshi, that you should have been Craig White's lawyer, but nobody wants to be a lawyer, right? That's the whole point.
oh well, do you know? I mean, I wish I had been, but
I
because
do.
because we know that the lawyers are completely corrupt and they are complicit in this fraud. They know exactly what's going on. Yeah, so
Yeah,
they're more than happy to rinse Craig of millions of dollars for their fees. Absolutely
yeah,
outrageous. But like you said, one, it's an administration court, so there is no need for a court. It's purely administration. It's all paperwork. There was no need for that really expensive facade that we saw, but I mean, it was extremely entertaining and very educational, for people to have actually seen this. And again, people were able to see who Craig was for the first time. And yeah, I mean, it was extremely educational. And what you've just said there was fascinating because I didn't know about the Black Horse and the Sumerians, taking people's souls and all. I mean, yeah, fascinating stuff. I love hearing. Oh, I love learning new stuff. It's brilliant. But yeah, in terms of the next step. Oh, well, just going back to your question to start with about Craig knowing about the legal fiction, I would suggest that he doesn't know about it. And the reason being is that although people like ourselves, who have been living and breathing this legal fiction for probably like the last 3 years because it was new to us, and then it's just like, oh my goodness me, there's all this knowledge, and you think that when you learn this knowledge that you're behind with the times because you're just like, oh my god, I'm learning all this. This means people already know this. The knowledge must have been out there. I'm late to the party. That is not the case. Literally, the knowledge that we have is I suppose people would many would call it sort of esoteric. Really, it is really unique. This legal fiction thing, for me, only came about, probably in maybe 2021, something like that. And obviously, I've been living and breathing it since then. But Craig, you have to remember, is Asperger's, and in the same way that people on the autism spectrum often specialize in a particular skill. Like, some people can just play the piano, other people are really creative and artistic and all this, but they are very specialized. Craig's specialist, autistic skill, if you want, for want of a better word, is money and finance and technology. That is his gift. In terms of everything else, all he does is learn through indoctrination. He's just literally learned through the conventional terms, which we know have all been corrupted. So Craig's view of the law is the very traditional, corrupted view that he's been learned, and in his mind, he would think, well, why would anybody tell me this if this wasn't the way of doing things? I don't think he's awake to the deception. I think he understands the corruption because he understands the corruption of money and he understands that people are lying. But I don't think he is aware of the deceitfulness of the courts. That's my personal opinion. Also, other people who were involved. I mean, I don't want to mention too many names because now that because there are certain people that I already predicted the outcome and the loss of this court case too, and they were kind of like skeptical at first. Whereas now I've just written to them again and say, look, this is what I told you would happen, and this is what has happened, and now this is what you need to do about it. And so it's those people that are now sort of like starting to listen to me, that will probably change the course of where things are headed in the future. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But in terms of what's going to happen next, we know that all these Craig being Satoshi Nakamoto is superfluous to requirements. It's the only thing that did, it would have protected Craig personally, because the BTC market cap is currently like $1 trillion in value, and if that value was to flip into BSV because of either Craig moving a coin because he was, or being recognized as Satoshi Nakamoto by the judge, or Teranode coming on the mainnet, which is the holy grail of technology. If the $1 trillion market flips into BSV, it means that all those criminals who have got billions of dollars, tied up in the value of BTC, are not going to be happy if the market suddenly flipped And now the finger of blame is going to be pointed at Craig, and the burden of responsibility for it placed on his shoulders. Whereas if the finger of blame was pointed at him and the burden was on his shoulders, but he was already recognized as Satoshi Nakamoto, it's like, well, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto, I invented Bitcoin, what's your problem? You know, the scammers are the people who have been calling me a scammer. You know, so your beef is now with them, not me. That's the problem, and that was the whole point of this court case, was to effectively was for Craig's personal safety. So it's got nothing to do with the economics of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin being an economic model and fixed in supply, the initial issue is how do you distribute Bitcoin fairly? Well, it all comes down to economics. So you compete to extract Bitcoin from the system, and the more investment that you put in, you know, the more you're willing to risk, the more you should be rewarded. It's a case of what's I've forgotten what the expression is now. A high risk, high reward kind of thing. You know, the more you risk, the more you should be rewarded. But obviously the competition increases as time goes on, because the distribution, well, the supply of Bitcoin is fixed, and therefore the distribution gets lower and lower and lower as you come to sort of the end of the distribution period. So what you need in order for the miners, who are the operations that economically sustain the system, to survive, is that they need payment in Bitcoin. So if the block reward continues to get cut in half every 210,000 blocks, eventually what you need is the reward, you know, in the blocks, to be replaced by something else, and that is replaced by the block fee, which is people paying a fee, uploading their data requirements onto the network. And so the block fee will replace the block reward, and then the miners can economically sustain themselves. And then we have an economically self-sustaining system, because the system is used because of the service it provides. And that's really what we want. It's, you know, economically self-sustaining because of its utility, and, you know, and the service it provides, which is immutable data. So effectively what we've got now in Bitcoin is an internet where we now, for the first time ever, own and control our own data, because we are uploading it onto the Bitcoin network instead of onto a private, you know, or a centrally controlled corporate server. You know, and the way that we own and control our own data is because the data is on a globally distributed, economically competitive server network, where all our digital signatures are attached to our uploads, and therefore accountability lies with us, because the network itself doesn't have any central point of authority, control, or failure, meaning there is no accountability and responsibility anywhere in the actual network itself. So therefore it lies with us, the users, and we own and control our own data. And that is effectively allowed or created because the network is economically sustained by the asset that it produces, that is Bitcoin. So we buy Bitcoin in order to upload our data service requirements onto the internet. And because there is a demand for that, the demand for the value of the token increases, because people are buying it to use the network. And therefore, because there is real value in that token can then be used as a medium of exchange for the true exchange of goods and services in the economy. So therefore we have a true money. So really, this case aside has been a really good example of how how the courts operate, and they've done exactly as we predicted. You know, Craig has gone in there as Dr. Craig Wright. You know, when it's like, well, Craig, you're putting your hand on the Bible and swearing that you are Dr. Craig Wright. Did your mother call you doctor when you were born? You know, were you born Dr. Craig Wright? Oh no. So when did you get that title? And also, you know, when you were first born, did these people not refer to you as master? Did your mother call you master? Oh no, it was the maritime jurisdiction that was calling you master. And then after 7 years, you know, were the letters of estate removed from your title, and yet then you were given the title Mr., which is an abbreviation of maritime, which is a midshipman's rank, which is the lowest rank on a ship, which is a maritime title, meaning you are lost at sea, and all this other stuff. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because I've said to my contacts, I said, look, please tell Craig that there is no point in appealing this decision in the traditional way. There is no point. It's a very, very expensive and completely pointless administration process. There is no need to have a court of admin. No need. Yeah, the
No, no.
only thing, the only time a court is required is when there is a jury of peers, a trial by jury. And again, I found out the other day that the difference, and again, I'm still learning, the difference between a jury trial and a trial by jury is that a trial by jury has a legitimate jury of peers. A jury trial is just where you've got like maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 jury, which is not an official jury. So that's the difference between a trial by jury, which is where the jury decides because it's an official jury, and then a jury trial is just when you've got a handful of people there that are probably going to be instructed by the judge to come to a decision that he wants them to come to.
Yeah, that's it. Like you say, you've explained the difference beautifully. And there's a little known other option, because it's always three in those terms, and it's jury nullification. The jury, an actual jury of your peers, has the ability to nullify any kind of unjust legislation. We can do that. The power is with the people. But like you said earlier, Toshi, we kind of live and breathe this stuff and talk it every day. But and I tend to think, well, you don't know it. But, we know that people don't. And if people can just get to grips, as I always say, and understand banking and understand debt and understand economics, then we know that it all goes down to, like we said, the City of London and banking. And again, talking about titles, if you've got a title, then that's the system. We're born, we're not birthed. And we're not registered into the system. So we're in the jurisdiction of, like I say, really what he needs to do, because it was at the Chancery Court, wasn't it? I've not got that wrong. In the Chancery Court, there's that potential at the Chancery Court to invoke equity. That's the only place you're going to do it. Well, not the only place, but as a living man or woman. I learned something really interesting actually recently about, obviously, the judge wears the Saturnian robes, and people will have heard me pap on about this quite a lot. They kind of worship Saturn, and Saturn is who puts meat on the bones. They worship Father Time, and Father Time is suffering. Father Time is death, and they kind of, the elites. And who are the elites? It's the elven tribes of Dan, which is one of the first tribes of Israel, which is if you put Israel, the Israelites, it's got elites in the title. And these are the people and the families that have controlled banking. The Rothschild is, it's all the same families that have done this for, they call it the 13th Order of the Dragon. And this is why they've got the City of London surrounded by 13 dragons. So, like you say, unless you're going to go in and completely challenge their jurisdiction over you as that fictional entity, like you say, going to an appeal is a waste of time and money, because they are never going to rule against themselves. And again, talking about titles, the Saturnian worship is linked to Sirius, and they worship Sirius, which is Satan. The stars Sirius, and that's where you get Sir from. That's another title. Sir is Sirius. And it all kind of runs back round and links back in. So you're going up against a criminal banking mafia that's existed, from the dawn of an age. So it's huge, taking that on and taking them on and who they are, and like you say, it's never in a month of Sundays you're going to walk in there as legal fiction and go, because like you say, as we followed it, he didn't make a move wrong as far as I could see, Craig, other than that. In that sense, really. But like you say, to kind of illuminate that system and show exactly what it does and how it operates is a powerful thing in itself.
Yeah, and fascinating what you've just said there. I didn't realize about Sirius and Sir and all this, and I'm still learning on a daily basis. But are are you familiar with how? Are you familiar with where this entire conspiracy comes from?
Oh, you mean the banking arm?
Yeah, well, yeah, everything. Do you know where this entire conspiracy stems from?
Oh, no, what? No, like the history of banking. You mean?
Oh, just literally what we're facing and why they're doing this to us.
Oh, well, yeah. I don't know whether I'm. You tell me. You tell me, and I'll tell you whether I do.
Okay, yeah. So this
Why?
entire this entire conspiracy that we are facing stems from the book of Genesis in 1 Samuel 15:3, which was written in 1028 BC, where God apparently said to the Israelites, "Now go kill Amalek, you know, destroy every man, woman, child, suckling baby, calf, camel, sheep, and donkey. Leave nothing." So what these people are doing, because they consider we are Amalek, they think that we are genetic abominations, and they think that God wants rid of us. That is what we're facing. So they've done all of this. They planned this ever since the year 1028 BC. So it's literally been, 3,000 years in the making. Is where this conspiracy comes from.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they call us the Gwayim, don't they? The cattle, the
That's right.
sheep. And they've left, I mean, again, going back to the City of London, like I didn't know that. That's super interesting. But it all goes back to these 12, well, 13 families, the 12 tribes of Israel, but it's actually 13 because two of the houses, and I'm no historian, I'm no expert. I'm literally learning about this at the moment as I go, really. Well, it's like how it all weaves into each other is just like it's just immense, really. And that's the dog coming back. These 12 tribes, and that's why the crests and the symbols, and again, when we learn to read, the symbols of these families, it's quite easy to kind of break down. So, like Lloyd's Banking, Lloyd's of London, has a black horse, and the black horse is one of the symbols of the tribe of Dan, or the Tuatha De Danann, which the king was Lu or Lu, and that's Lucifer. So,
Right, I
the
didn't know
morning
that.
star, and
Wow.
Sirius. So we're up against, it is a holy war or an unholy war, depending, but we know that, don't we? Like I say, it's in the legalese, it's in the chords, in the symbols. We just have forgotten how to read it. It's that Manly P. Hall thing I always say. When we learn to, read the language of symbolism, a great veil will fall from the minds of men. And they're constantly coding to each other all the time, and yeah, I mean, it goes so deep, doesn't it? And the financial arm of it, that debt slavery, and that fiction is one of the biggest parts of it. But
Oh
it does
yeah,
all go back to scripture, but it's just a script. They're playing it out.
yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, these people have been known to those who wrote the Bible. They know that these people have been out there because you've got 1
Yeah.
Samuel 15, Book of Genesis, which was 1028 BC. But then in Revelation, which was written in 95 AD, you have a section in there saying something like, those who are of the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews but are not, but lie, behold. So these people, who claim to be, who claim to be Jews but are not, but lie, that are of the synagogue of Satan, they are
Yeah.
literally in the Bible. They have been known to everybody in the world, as to who they are. And again, what they're saying is they claim to be Jews but are not. So they're not actually mentioning who they are. So if you track them back, it looks to me like these people are actually the Khazarian mafia, which
Yeah.
have effectively infiltrated the Jewish religion, and then subverted the Torah into the Talmud, which has been described as the monument of human folly. And the
Yeah.
Talmud literally justifies pedophilia, deception, lying. Basically, it basically says anything that you do that you can get away with, God has therefore allowed because you got away with it. You know
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it says. It's outrageous. So and again, if you ask many, the Jews themselves, they will say that and again, Israel is a Zionist a Zionist creation, and Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism is this totalitarian one world government. Everybody else is a genetic abomination. They think that we are Nephilim. So what they're doing to their neighbors in Lebanon and Gaza and all this kind of stuff, it is coming to us. But unfortunately, with all the injections that they give kids these days, it means that they're effectively calcifying people's pineal glands, and the majority of people are just simply too stupid to understand what we're talking about. They wouldn't get this. You say, oh, legal fiction. They just wouldn't be able to grasp or comprehend that statement. What do you mean a legal fiction? Oh, you're talking rubbish. So I think I read a post the other day saying that only 20% of people will ever actually do anything. So this is one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for people like you, and everybody else who is actually awake to this, because we are unbelievably valuable to one another, because all these other NPCs, these non-player characters, they are not going to help. They're not going to do anything. However, they might come over, like I said, due to economic incentive, because people will unite due to economic incentive. And this statement keeps going over in my mind, because Rishi Sunak recently said, diversity is our strength. Well, actually, united we stand, divided we fall. And if you want to create division, you must first create diversity.
Yeah.
And that's what he's promoting. So he is in on this.
Oh yes. And again, you follow their bloodlines, and they're all from the from the same bloodlines. It's quite easy to track. Angela Merkel, Theresa May, they're all related to each other. And we think we vote these people in. Again, it goes back to the City of London, which is a separate state. Vote comes from the Latin to volt. Volt is an energy harvest. That's why you get the polls. We don't vote these people in. They are corporate employees of the City of London, as we all are, under the birth certificate and the bond, until like we've said earlier, until we kind of rebut that presumption. And again, back to scripture, for Prince King Charles, the Queen openly said, "For you shall draw your power from the seat of the dragon." And it goes back to these 13 dragons that surround the City of London, and the tribe of Dan were given the, and again, I'm no historian, and I don't want to talk about this too much, because this is stuff that I'm studying at the moment. A guy called Neil, who runs a group about, and it goes into what you're saying about diversity. And this isn't anything to do with being racist or transphobic or any of these things, because I'm none of those things, or, against gay people or whatever. But like you said, divided we fall, because we are strong in our cultures. If I go to Italy, it's because I want to, it's full of Italians. It's Italy. It's beautiful. If I go to India, I want to experience Indian culture. It's full of Indians. It's brilliant. And we're being decimated, and purposefully so. Because, like I say, it's complete divide and conquer. But going even deeper into these families and where we've come from, and I'm, decide for yourself. And like I say, there's a guy I know called Neil who knows way more about this than me, so I hope I do it justice. But that we are the Aryans. And that actually Atlantis was Ireland, and that Great Britain means the people of the Great Covenant, just as Scotland was the Holy Land, and that's why you get Edinburgh or Edinburgh. And actually, Christ, or that Christed consciousness, or whoever that actual man was, because obviously he wouldn't have been called Christ, was an ascent, and that actually it came from here. And that we are the sacred lands, and that's why they're decimating us the most. And they lie, saying that it was over in the east, because that's Babylon, and Babylon is lined up again with Sirius, and it's all Sirius worship in the constellation of Canis Major, which is the dog star. And then it goes back to the Vatican. Vati means papa, and can means dog, so it means the dog father and the dog star of Sirius. They're all worshipping Satan. It's all names for Satan. And the lying that this knowledge, that, you know, this Eastern kind of esoteric knowledge came from the East. It didn't. It came from us. So it's not nothing to do with, oh, we're white, we're blue-eyed. We kind of, you know, we are. And apparently that's what Hitler was looking for. He was looking for the Aryans, or, you know, that kind of lost technology. And Aya is Ireland. So it's like, it's super interesting. And we're going to get Neil onto the, I think he's going to be the first guest, hopefully, on the new series of the second series of the main podcast, because it's absolutely, honestly, no one can rhyme it off like Neil. He studied it for 20 years, and it's so compelling, and it absolutely 100% makes sense. And it goes back, without me going into a complete ramble, about like what you said, Toshi, quite rightly. These Zionists, you know, they call themselves Jewish. Well, what is, you either, there's a true Jew, or you Jewish. You know, Jewish is ishy. It's like, they're basically telling you. And it goes into scripture again. They are these old Khazars, which are the slave traders of old, etc. And yeah, Khazaria is Ukraine. Ukraine was Khazaria. And Khazaria was, it used to be called Canaan, which goes to the Canaanites. And the Canaanites, again, back into the law and legal, that third ecclesiastical jurisdiction of the Talmud, they were the Talmud of Menashar. And Menashar were one of the 12 tribes. So it goes back again. It's all there in our history, but of course our history is completely, we're lied to about it all. So how can we heal from a past when we don't know what it is? How can we understand our power and who we are when it's been hidden from us? And again, it goes to understanding or understanding the legal fiction, to understanding banking and economics, which you're just absolutely super amazing at, and meeting people like Neil, and meeting other people as well who can place our history in the right context, because that's why they want to decimate it and get us all as a mixed race, like one homogenized mixed race, because there's strength in culture, and there's strength in us knowing who we are. And when we know who they are, as I always say, and it says it in scripture, know thyself, it's over. It's game over for them. So we are the
fascinating.
we are the children of Israel, and Israel is England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and the rest. It's not the fake Babylon. Like you said, Israel, Isis, Ra, the Elven tribes. That's where that L comes from. And it's super, super interesting. And like I say, I'm just scratching the surface of it. So I'm not saying I'm an expert by any, but I'm weaving it into the law stuff and the legal, because it fits, like bang on fits, and the banking system. It's just like, it blows my head. So stay tuned for that. Like I say, I've explained that extremely badly, but that's the best I can do at the moment.
No, that was fascinating. Honestly, like I said, I'm learning every day. It blows my mind. But I mean, the one thing I'm trying to explain to everybody is, literally, people will unite due to economic incentive. It's economic incentive that will unite us against them. And I mean, literally, I sometimes have to pinch myself as to the situation that we're in here, because the only way that a digital money can exist, a digital commodity, is if there is common accountability amongst the network that this token came from. And the common accountability is created via this chain of digital signatures that eventually exposes everything. It keeps everything in the private, but if there are activities taking place which are detrimental to society, that we as a people do not want, it can ultimately be traced. It's going to take a lot of effort, but it can ultimately be traced and stamped out, and there will be an immutable evidence trail of this. So literally, the cabal, the Zionists, they cannot touch Bitcoin. They cannot afford to use Bitcoin, because there is an immutable digital signature attached to that transaction. They will be traced. And this thing, this electronic cash, this electronic money, and the commoditized network that it came from, literally could not have come at a better time, because literally this lot were right at the peak of their plan. Literally they planned COVID for 2025, and if they had their infrastructure in place with all these supermax prisons that they were given, trying to instigate a war between the vaxxed and the unvaxxed, and these prisons had all these crematoriums in. I mean, literally, it was like building Auschwitz all over again. We know what they had in store for us. People have no idea how close I mean, literally, even now we are teetering on the edge. It could go either way, which is why knowledge right now is absolutely essential and key to this. Which is why, obviously, I'm coming on your show and trying to explain this to people. And this is why they've spent literally trillions of dollars creating an entire shitcoin market full of economically worthless security offerings, to distract us away from Bitcoin, because they know the power of this thing. So all it is just knowledge is power, and we need to get this education out to people. Once people get this knowledge and they start using Bitcoin and they realize that, once we are out of their financial system, they have no power over us. Nothing. We are not even in their jurisdiction. They have nothing on us. And this is why I'm so desperate to educate the fundamentals of Bitcoin to everybody, because this is it. Literally, we will unite and come together due to economic incentive. There is no other way it can be done.
Yeah. And that's that whole system of banking, isn't it? They need us. We're the creators. It's our signature that creates the credit. We're the beneficiaries. It's us, and they obviously conceal that, and they hide that, and they hide the fact that, this deceptive system, of course they do, it's deception. They're not going to come and tell us, are they? And even, going back to the trial, I know you mentioned in your video about the civil procedural rules, and it's all plain illegal, really. But again, they'll just railroad, like they said, the documents that Copa were relying on in the end, they hadn't even disclosed. I mean, that's like against pretty much every civil procedural rule going. And then, but they just got away with it because it's the bar, and they just kind of. Yeah, well, he's not Craig Wright at the end. But again, challenging that even in a court of appeal, we're still playing illegal when we need to play in lawful. And that's that big distinction between, legislation, all these acts. Is given the force of law by the consent of the governed. It all requires our consent, just like the banking system in our ignorance. We're gifting our credit, we're gifting our wealth and our over to them because we don't know it. And of course we don't know it because we're never taught it. And we're never taught it for obvious reasons, like going back to us being slaves on the ship. That's why we have the P in our passport. All maritime terms, P means purser, which means slave on a ship. And that's how they class as this, as slaves, as debt slaves. And goes back to the Khazarian slave traders of old, these Zionists. And it's nothing, this is why the anti-Semite slap gets onto everybody. And they want all this diversity because it's just this dilution of us and our mental capacities. Like you say, just to begin and grasp the basics, everybody's so dumbed down. Toxins poisoned up. It's just like, to undo what's been done to us is going to take a huge shift. But I hope that we are getting there. I mean, even like say I wrote it down here. Failing to comply with disclosure requirements in a court. We know that they're just administrative courts. It means that the whole claim can be struck out. I got the case Ryback v Langbar International Limited 2010. So I mean, there are ways of appeal, but like you say, there's no way in holy hell that system who owns that. It goes back to the Unum Sanctum, the first express trustee, where the Vatican claimed the planet, not the plane of the earth, but the planet. That's how they separate it. They claimed the planet and everything on it, and that stands until we stand up and take it back.
Wow,
it's good fun, isn't
it? Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, a lot of people have said, what a time to be alive. I mean, it is. I mean, what I've learned and the experiences that I've gone through over these past few years have been absolutely amazing. I would, if this event hadn't happened, I would have gone through life completely ignorant of everything. It's in fact it's been probably if not, I mean, it's the most exciting time of my life because literally, our lives are on the line. I mean, it's literally like building another family again with all these people, all these fantastic people that I've met. I mean, literally, they say quality attracts quality, and you become who you hang around with. Like as they say, you know, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You know, the people that get what we're talking about and that are probably listening to this show, you know, they're the people that you've always wanted to know. But until now, you know, they've effectively been hidden from us. Whereas now people are sort of listening and go, yeah, I resonate with that. You know, I will come to you. I'm on board with what you're saying. Yeah, it's a brilliant time to network and get to know people. You know, like I said, if this thing hadn't been if this situation that we're in wasn't it, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met Andy. There are loads of people I wouldn't have met. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm the same as well. Like I say, being awake, and I've said this many times, 20 years, it's kind of quite isolated. And when all this kicked off, I knew what they were doing. So, you know, like magnets, we all started to come together. And again, some people stab you in the back along the way, and they
Mm,
weren't the ones for you either. So that, and that learning curve of that. But like I say, you know, that discernment now, and your vibe attracts your tribe. And that's like what I'm trying to do at Dark Matters. I haven't got all the answers, but we bring the right people in and we can build, I don't want to say community because that means something else, but we build that platform and that network
mm,
of good souls. Then like I say, if I can't do it, let's find a man who can, because it's like what you said about Craig White. You know, he's got that kind of Aspergic, he's good at what he does. You know,
mm.
I'm great at networking, I'm great at gabbing on. I have skills around the law, but it's more, I'm more interested in the history and the exposing and the shining the light of it. So, you know, we've got people in the network, you know, for remedy, for practical remedies, and as well as me doing what I do. But again, we create that and we work together, paddling our own canoes, but you know, pushing that, you know, forward, where it's something that people can hopefully trust. That's like a big thing that's kind of been lost in many ways these last 4 years with infighting and varying things. But that's kind of my goal, really. Like I say, I've met some amazing people because obviously we met through the good and Andy.
Mm.
And yeah, the stuff I like you say, every day is a school day for me. And I don't ever profess to get everything right. I don't. And maybe sometimes I jumble the odd thing up, like, because that's like my head a little bit sometimes. So I think it's just brilliant that we all kind of come together and get this stuff out. And if that's my kind of role, then you know, so be it. But it's, yeah, it's an interesting, like I say, I've just got my popcorn really, and the same with the Craig White stuff, because like I say, it's bigger than we kind of can kind of anticipate, or a lot of people can anticipate that it is. And I genuinely, as much as everyone's kind of went into a panic at that kind of conclusion of the case, although it's not officially concluded yet, I think, but it kind of has at it really, I think. Then I'm in it for the long haul. Like I say, it's going to be so interesting to see what happens next. And obviously you, Toshi, you know, with your amazing knowledge and wealth of knowledge guiding us through it's like the game of snakes and ladders of it, you know. It's super interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, so
Definitely.
what people need to what again, yeah, with I said before, in terms of people asking what's going to happen, it's a
Yeah.
timeline you need to know about. Literally, so we have the Bitcoin halving coming up. I think for Bitcoin, it's in might be 27 days now. For BTC, I think it's in 34 days. But this is absolutely epic for the network itself because the miners' reward will get cut in half. They have got nowhere to go unless the price of BTC doubles, and BTC doesn't do anything, so therefore it's reliant on the pumping of Tether.
Mm.
It literally does nothing. And when Teranode comes on the market and it's already the testnet is already made public, producing 1 million transactions per second. And what's fascinating about that is that due to the horizontal scaling problem, which is well, not just a practical problem, but also a theoretical problem of replicating software. There is no network on Earth that can process more than 50,000 transactions per second. Visa, MasterCard, Facebook, Google, Amazon, they are stuck. They are stuck at 50,000 transactions per second. Teranode has solved that horizontal scaling problem and is now doing 1 million transactions per second. So even though it's a test net, there is no other digital network on Earth that can do that. Literally,
Yeah.
there's none. And so when that comes on the main net, the block fee will absolutely skyrocket. And the miners then come charging over, and the Bitcoin Bitcoin miners are the largest bag holders, the largest concentration of of BTC holders in the world. They own more BTC between them than the entire world put together. So that's what, and they are economically incentivized, all of them. They have no political allegiances or ideologies between them whatsoever. They purely chase profit. So literally, Teranode already on testnet. We've just got to wait for that to come onto the mainnet, and we've got the block reward halving coming up in just about a month's time, like 30 days. It's literally a halving is like a Bitcoin earthquake. It's huge because it will shake the miners to their core. Unless they can cover their running costs, they go out of business. And again, what's going to keep them in business is the block fee. Well, is the reward they get for processing transactions. So really, that's what people need to keep an eye on now, and they really need to get their heads around this so that they can then start explaining this to other people in the same way that I'm explaining it to you.
And talking about like terminals and stuff, if I'm being a bit of an numpty, because please treat me like one. Is that something that people can kind of invest in, like some technology, like you would have shares in Microsoft, before it kind of went big, or am I getting that confused? Is it how does that work for people if they wanted to kind of get involved in that, or am I not getting that right?
So they call it Teranode because it's going to be a network of nodes that can process a terabyte's worth of data. So that's all it is. Teranode is the program, it's the software that has solved this horizontal scaling program. However, the patent technology for this Teranode is owned by nChain, and it's nChain, that is Stephen Matthews' company that was initially set up, and Craig Wright was the chief scientist of. And that technology is only going to be available on the BSV network.
Okay. Because, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So now we've got a network which is a common digital network where we own and control our own data that can now handle all the world's digital transactions, all of it. So now you've got a network that has scaled for global adoption where we own and control our own data that only this technology runs on. So the entire world will come flooding in. So it's really important that truthers that know the truth, like me and you, are in on this so that we eventually have the economic power to put right what these bastards have done wrong.
I love that, and I know you've always led with that, Toshi, and that's why I love you to bits. So it's for that kind of greater good, isn't it? It's like, yes, come on,
Absolutely.
we've got this. It's like we may be small and mighty down on the ground, but we're shining or illuminating the light onto it, and I love that. And that again, that inner standing of how important that is, and that data is our property, but like you said, we're putting it onto the corporate commercial network, but we remove that. We don't need the banking system anymore. That's game over, isn't it? Really, they want the great reset, we want the great reveal.
Yeah, and also just going back to what you were saying there, I think it was Margaret Mead who said, never underestimate the power of a small group of civilians to change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So even if you just simply have a small group of people with enough economic power between us, which means like investing in Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin, when Teranode comes on the network, that's when we can really become our own. And then people need to know what the network can be used for. So at the moment, we register the births of our newborn, we register our vehicles with the DVLA. We're handing away ownership. Whereas now we have an official record where we can record all of our own personal private transactions. We can record the birth of our newborns. We can record the purchase of our cars. We do not need to register them with a government register or the DVLA or anything like that. Everything has to move into the private. And when things are private, they're out of prying eyes, because the public is effectively the register that the government hold over us. So that's what we really need to get rid of. So if people can comprehend this concept that I've just explained to you, then hopefully we can win this.
Yeah. Amazing. And on that note, I don't think we can say any more. So again,
Oh,
Toshi,
great.
we shall absolutely keep the faith. I truly believe it in my soul. So I will be watching with great interest and following you on your channel. And again, thanks so much for being here. We'll have to try and get you doing a bit of a live in the network if you're up for that at some point as well. That'd be really cool. But thanks again
Absolutely.
for coming and illuminating this for us. It's been illuminating.
It's been great. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, definitely, my love. Okie dokie. Well, we'll leave it there. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later.